was raining earlier, but as you can see, the sun's out now, which is nice. And what's going on today? All that war and stuff still going on in Ukraine. Lots of people supplying them weapons, which actually shows, hey, they're in support of them, so to speak. But it's kind of interesting reading this one where it's more, hey, we just sell the items. In this case, I guess it's military drones. This one says, Bayraktar, UAVs purchased by Ukraine, not aid from Turkey. Deputy FM. Turkey's sale of Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicles to Ukraine is not a form of aid. They are products that Ukraine purchased from a Turkish company, Deputy Foreign Minister Yavuz Kran said Thursday. While the war between Russia and Ukraine enters its second week, Turkey tries to keep its neutral and balanced position by keeping communication with all sides open. On the other hand, Ukraine's use of Turkish drones against Russian forces has made headlines in the international media. And it says here, quote, private defense industry companies can make such agreements with countries. These countries do not have a binding nature. This is not an aid from Turkey. They are products purchased by Ukraine from Turkish company. Moreover, Ukraine is not the only country to buy Bayraktar TB2s. Everyone is in line to get the drones, Kran said, commenting on the issue. And with that, I guess they have to quote, hey, look, our product must be good for them to use it. It says, the fact that Bayraktar drones stand out as one of the most deterrent elements of the Ukrainian army actually shows the success and quality of the products produced by our company. It's not our job to evaluate those discussions. We will not lose our position negotiating with both sides, he added. That's kind of sad to think about too, because if you're a company, you just want to sell stuff and make money, you would kind of think in many ways you would want the war to kind of continue, correct? Because you can keep selling, I guess, weapons and all that. That's kind of bad. At the same time, you want to worry about, quote, deadly drones and stuff? Worry about stuff like this. Not someone flying like a toy and all that, or just capturing basic video and footage like a regular camera. And without thought of just wanting things to continue, I guess, because it, say, benefits someone, this was actually really fascinating. Now in Canada, a lot of places are actually dropping things like vaccine passport mandates and all that. So it's kind of interesting reading this one because apparently Quebec had one of the harshest, I guess, restrictions with things like curfews and all that. And some information was released where it shows they were actively trying to, I guess, find ways to continually restrict people versus basing things on science on whether or not it makes sense, according to this. This one here says, public health was figuring out how to justify the curfew 6 hours before the announcement. An astonishing situation took place on the day of the announcement of the return of the curfew in Quebec, December 30th. While the day before, behind the scenes, Horacio Arruda had formalized his favorable recommendation, unpublished emails reveal that the former National Director of Public Health was still looking for studies to justify his decision, 6 hours before the press conference. So according to this, it says it is 10:31 a.m. on December 30th when Horacio Arruda's assistant writes on his behalf to the Associate Vice President for Scientific Affairs of the National Institute of Public Health of Quebec, Eric Litvak, and Senior Strategic Medical Advisor for Public Health, Marie-France Reynaud. It says here, Horacio would like you and your team to provide him with an argument in connection with the curfew in anticipation of questions from journalists at the 5 p.m. press conference this evening. So they knew there would be public scrutiny of sorts, and it says Dr. Arruda wants to know two things. What are the studies? What is being done elsewhere? And the email says he wants it all in a tight pitch. And then at 2:36 p.m., less than 3 hours before the press conference, Eric Litvak replied that it was impossible. Says here, quote, on the INSPQ side, we have no existing analysis that specifically relates to the curfew, and we are unfortunately unable to produce one today with such short notice. So it's one of those things like, well, we can't back you up with, I guess, scientific facts in that sense. It says, however, Eric Litvak kept material that he had used when he worked at the National Directorate of Public Health and that he himself has suggested the first curfew in January 2021. He sends her these documents. It would be foreign and Ontario studies quoted by the ministry in a press release the very evening of the announcement and later criticized. Now it mentions for that curfew, people were charged thousands of dollars potentially in fines if they actually went outside. And it says here, in January, the Ministry of Health was questioned under the Access to Documents Act on what it had used to access this restrictive measures to determine if it was effective in slowing the spread of the virus. The answer on February 7th was as follows, saying, quote, "The mission of the Ministry of Health and Social Service is not to conduct scientific research or improve legal arguments. The decisions adopted are based on conclusive data collected by various organizations." So I guess there you would say, well, that's just what the studies and stuff say based on the opinions of experts and so forth, according to them. But then it says, however, on the same day, in response to another request, the INSPQ declared that it had no document proving the effectiveness of the curfew. So that's kind of bad right there, huh? Now, apparently, they wanted to actually read, I guess, the whole justification. It says, in the new email exchange unveiled today, we learned that an ethics notice was issued internally on December 29th, but the 2 pages of the document are completely redacted. And you can see the document they showed, I guess. Oh, you don't have anything to hide, huh? That's ridiculous. How can you do that when people ask for like a freedom of information request and this is what you give them? That's crazy, isn't it? So if this is all true, that's really unfortunate, but I guess I'm not surprised overall. It's basically people for some reason wanting to restrict people and all that when there's no real scientific evidence of it to say, hey, how does this actually help this and that? And it just makes you wonder, why don't people question it more versus just saying, okay, that's what they say, let's go with it. But you can see here when people actually push for the answers, like here, wow, redacted documents and all that, that's really bad. Now for here in Canada, it's actually only places like here in BC currently that continues to do things like vaccine passports and all that, and it makes you wonder why. Would it be the same situation if someone really says, hey, let me dive into this, give me all the facts, what are you basing the data on? Would it be like this? Man, it's so crazy. You can't really say at this point, by the sounds of it, it's all, quote, based on science. It's kind of like that other remark that was thrown out the other day where they said, oh, there's some politics and stuff thrown into it. Alright, see you guys later.